That's too fast for the blues, man. I don't know what the hell I'm thinking.
Hey guys, Sean Hammond with PremierGuitar.com, talking to Joe Bonamassa at his gig here at the Paramount Theater in Cedar Rapids.
In your hometown.
Yeah.
We're in your hometown, Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
You were surprised to hear that we're based here, right?
Yeah, I figured you'd be in like the some sort of publishing building in like Midtown Manhattan, with like a fancy like 50,000 square foot office that costs like $3 million a month, right? Because print media is so profitable these days. It's fantastically profitable.
You nailed it. But seriously, thanks for taking the time to talk to us.
Hey, I'm honored. You guys, I'm a fan. Not only I'm a fan of your magazine, I'm a fan of all the videos you guys do, and you guys have been very kind to me over the years. So thank you for that. I say this to an inanimate object here. It's a wacky
our little
camera.
Mevo camera. So we only have a few minutes, but why don't we talk about some of the guitars you brought up? You brought up three. You have tons of guitars, right? But what made you choose these?
Well, I brought three guitars. I have about, I think, probably 300 at this point. Probably equal amount of amps. I mean, I'm a guitar addict. I've been collecting for years and I never stop. So I brought this one, just being cranky today. This is a 58 Flying V, a real one. And about 3 months ago, proves the stuff's still out there. About 3 months ago, a friend of mine and I were driving a very old pickup truck from Seattle, Washington to Los Angeles. We bought the truck from a friend of mine in Seattle, and we decided to drive it home. And I was like, man, this is probably not the greatest idea because I don't really know mechanically how this thing works, but we made it 1,250 miles down Interstate 5 from Seattle to... And when I was about 2 hours north of Sacramento, my friend from Guitar Center calls me and says, hey, listen, check your messages. There's something interesting that just popped into one of our stores. And I get a picture. I get like 5 or 6 pictures of this guitar. And he goes, what do you think? And I call him back and I said, I think very highly of it. Because with these guitars, there's a lot of fakes. And there's a few telltale things to look for as far as originalities. And there's also a few things you can't fake, like the pick guard, the way it rolls and the bias. And it's like it was just the process they used in the plastic.
Now, what do you mean when you say the way it rolls?
Now again, we don't have the details in the camera,
right?
But if you look at the pick guard, when you see the light reflecting off it, you see these tiny rolls in it.
Almost like ripples.
They're almost like ripples, yeah. And it goes down. And the other trick is not to give away the playbook. Is if you look down the lines of the Flying V, this is straight and this is not so straight. Mm-hmm. They curves in a little bit, and all the real ones do. Plus, you also have the right serial number range. 2800s, fine. That's right in the sweet spot, and they're all in the ledger. And then this would be a late 58. This is 4902, 84902. And that also fits into where the Explorers would lie. So they built them in batches, and they built them in runs of 40. So my friend at Guitar Center and I, we decided he was going to fly up to Sacramento where the guitar was, and I was 2 hours north of Sacramento, and we ended up meeting at a Guitar Center location in Sacramento, and this very nice woman walks in with a brown leatherette gig bag, and this guitar comes out. It had flat wounds on it. All the tuners had been crumbled off, and it was a mess, but it was real.
The leatherette gig bag, that's the original. Or
no,
no, that would be in like a brown case. Huh?
It would be in a brown wedge case. Now, 2 years ago, my manager witnessed me paying a large sum of money for a spare wedge-shaped Flying V case, and he thought I was nuts. And if you have an extra case for a V or an Explorer, you're looking at $20,000, $30,000 for a freaking case. Isn't that crazy? And so I had the extra case, and the case is long gone for this, but doesn't make it less real. And this woman thought it was worth probably like $500. So we ended up giving her substantially more than $500. And the cool part is she's still my friend to this day. And when I played on the Conan O'Brien show, I used it, and I texted her. I said, "Hey, your Uncle Gino's guitar is going to be on the show."
Uncle Gino.
Uncle Gino. And the guy's name was Gino Landry. And he was a saxophone player, and he was a guitar player in the Bay Area. And that was pretty much it. And this was his guitar.
And this all happened 3 months ago.
I took delivery of this guitar. I was in Europe at the time, but my friends helped me get it. They flew to Sacramento with literally a bag full of money, and gave her money for it. And I took delivery of this guitar the night before my 40th birthday. So this is well, happy birthday, Joe, from Joe. But as a guitar collector, you can live 2 or 3 lifetimes and not run into an uncirculated, literally found in a trash bag. This guitar was sitting in a corner of the guy's house, and
in a trash bag,
and had a hefty bin. She called it a bin liner over the top of it.
She was British.
And no, she's not British, but she called it a bin liner. Huh. And I said, like a trash bag? She goes, yeah, it's a trash bag. And I'm like, so you just found it? And he was like, oh yeah, then I found the bag that goes with it, the leather bag. So, you could live 2 lifetimes and not see that.
Now, when you're out shopping for guitars like this, are you pretty picky about them being all stock, or?
Well, there's two parts of the collection, and again, issues are not an issue unless the price doesn't reflect the issues. If you're looking at a guitar with broken neck and refinish this and change parts that, and they want near mint money or straight money for it, then you go, you know what, you're I don't know what kind of like NyQuil and prescription medication you're taking, but you're clearly not thinking straight. Like in my collection, there's the museum grade stuff, and then there's the stuff I play. Mm-hmm. The museum grade stuff I want all original, and mint has a definition. When people say mint, I don't mean it's mint for its age. No, mint means it needs to look like it just came out of the factory, and and a lot of the stuff I collect it does.
And do you play that stuff, the collector stuff, ever on albums or anything?
Never. To be honest with you, and I know here come the comments. There's two letters that separate infamous and famous, and I don't know what applies to me anymore. Truth be told. Anyway.
Oh, the bigger, the more unavoidable
here's the thing.
it is.
I don't have this ego on me that says it's my guitar, and my catalogs of songs are so important that I'm going to take this mint preserved example of whatever out on stage with a studded belt and all the jewelry and put nicks into it. Well, it's because I put the nicks into it. That's stupid. Especially if you have other guitars you can play that truth be told are just as good.
You're taking a very long view as if they're works of art.
It's American history.
Yeah.
Like this guitar here, every screw, nut and bolt, capacitor, pot, potentiometer, even the switch tip. Guess where it was made? America. They don't do that anymore. It's you're preserving history. Now, if this guitar was mint, it wouldn't be here. It doesn't need to be here. But because it's not, it's on the road, and I play it 6 songs a night.
What have you done to this one?
I refretted it.
That's
I did
it?
the ultimate sin. And
with stock spec frets, or what you prefer?
I have they're the stock width, so they're not these big. They're just slightly taller than what the original. In '58, they would have been small Gibson frets. And when I got this guitar, I played it for about probably a week or so. And I said, let me see if I can get used to it and see if there's enough fret. But unfortunately, there was, between the 5th fret and about the 12th fret, it was just a surfboard. And the thing about V's, they get louder acoustically when you put frets on them. And I'm like, what am I going to do with this thing? Look at it or play it, But when you can dig into it. was a guitar that I was going to play. And as soon as I got on stage and its debut was this tour, I said, man, am I so glad I refretted it. Man, am I so glad it's out here. And I look down at this guitar every night and I go, it has absolutely no value to me anymore because they'll bury me with this thing. It's like, it's such a good guitar.
No dollar value.
There's no dollar value. This is my daily driver. This is the one I love, and it's the one I'm going to play. You know,
How long do you think that'll last?
How long do you think?
Being your daily favorite.
Well, no, I mean, there's Les Pauls that I have that'll never sell. You know, there's guitars that have sentimental value I'll never sell, but the rest of it I don't care. I mean, the rest of it is a collection. You know, yes, I am a hoarder. Yes, the idea of selling anything makes me very uneasy and quirkily nervous. You know, but truth be told, this guitar here, it's just such a good instrument that it just needs to be played. You know.
What's your favorite thing about it?
It's how it reacts. You know, some guitars are just dead. You know, but this thing here, it's like no matter what you do, you know, like I'm plugged into a Tweed Deluxe clone, and the amp is in the bathroom.
It's called a McKay, right?
A McKay, yeah.
I've never heard of that before. Where is that?
He was a nice gentleman. I met him at a meet and greet. And he built that for me, unbeknownst to me. And he gives it to me. He goes, check it out and see if you like it. It's fantastic. The thing about this guitar is when you hit a note. It reacts, you know, and if you lighten up the attack, it blooms, you know, it'll clean up nice. And not all of them do that. Even your Holy Grail 59 Les Pauls, even your Holy Grail Fenders and this, that, and the other thing, they're not all great. But this happens to be a great one.
And do you feel like that's more just like a sort of by luck, chance conglomeration of the sum of its parts, or you feel like it's more the pickups or the wood, or just
I think it's a total sum of its parts, and I think what a lot of times people don't realize is they'll spend hours and hours and days and weeks and months and years and leap years and, you know, 4 scores and whatever, and they'll sit there and they'll constantly be changing pickups on the guitar, chasing this something in their mind. Or they'll read something on an internet forum about, you know, some guy who is either the forum expert or the forum bully or a combination of both, going blah 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 blah, use this, that, and the other thing because that's what I do, and then you start investigating these people who go, well, that's what I do, and you realize that all they do is just get free stuff from companies to go on these forums and recommend it. It's just the dumbest stuff I've ever seen. Anyway. More hate mail for me. Here's the thing. What people don't realize about old Gibsons is a significant part of the sound is not in these. It's in these pots. Now,
which would include the capacitors.
Which
too.
include the capacitors, but these are military spec pots. So if you look at the taper, like around the front pickup, you know. Sorry, it's all loose. It's junk, old junk. Hear that taper? How even it is?
Mm-hmm.
You don't get that in a new pot. This is kind of weird. Anyway, that's loose.
Teching for himself.
Self-teching. How dare he? How dare he pull the knob off a 58V? Anyway, and a lot of the sound comes with these old pots. Now, am I recommending that people go out and buy 175s or whatever and cannibalize them to make conversions and that other crap that they try to sell for too much money? Absolutely not. Leave those poor things alone. But what I'm saying is the low output humbucking pickups that were made at the time, plus these pots, plus the capacitor, plus all the military grade wire and stuff that goes to the amplifier, that's where you get that nice, clean, clear, open sound. Then the guitar cleans up nice, like the volumes on 3.5. And there's no need for a pedal because at that point you got enough gain on the amp. You just go. And a lot of it, so there's your clean, dirty sound, scratchy pot, everything all rolled into one, and it's the same with Fenders, it's the same with Gibsons, the same with a lot of old guitars, and the pots are to me, the forgotten piece of the puzzle. You can sit and put every delineation and pickup, this, that, the other thing, blah, 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 blah. Truth be told, is if you have good pickups and a bad chain after the pickups, it's still going to sound bad. And or still not going to sound right. Or if you have a bad guitar, if you just have a dead piece of wood, you could put everything in it and it's still not going to work. So that's unfortunately and fortunately for these things why they do have that unique sound. And again, we're only talking about 10% here. It's not like this. It's not like it's one of those things where you plug in a reissue Gibson and an authentic 59, and you go, oh my God, it's like watching Jaws and swimming with real sharks. It's not. You know what I mean? It's not. It's about 10%. So then you have to decide whether a $2,500 reissue Les Paul or a $3,500 reissue Les Paul or a $1,500 Les Paul standard or a $650 Les Paul Studio that will get you at about 85 or 90% of what a $250,000 guitar is. I mean, you have to decide if that's that kind of. If you're willing to go to Mr. Banker and take out a loan, or go to your local Shylock and put up your kneecaps for it. I mean, it's something you need to decide.
Okay. Now, I know you only have a limited amount of time. Do you want to skip to some? Do you want to show us more guitars, or should we talk some Facebook questions?
Right.
Okay.
I got nothing to do.
So, Strat here.
Alright. You know what this is?
54?
Nope, it's a 58. It's a Mary Kay Strat. Do you know what a Mary Kay Strat is?
Mm-hmm.
Mary Kay Strat is a blonde Strat with gold parts. And with a Mary Kay Strat, they call it a Mary Kay Strat because the Mary Kay Trio was pictured in 56, I believe, with a blonde Strat with gold parts. Now, the little known fact of it all is that Mary Kay herself was not allowed to keep the Mary Kay Strat after the photo sessions. So they never gave her one. A couple things about a gold part Strat. All the screws were gold. Back screws, you get the back screws for the plate. The plate's got to be gold. Even though
so when you bought this, you wanted to make sure it was all the original screws, I'm guessing.
Well, I mean, honestly, screws get changed. I mean, these are these are original screws for this guitar. These are hidden because the pickup wants to ride up. So anyway, you just tape it down. And then this piece of tape, so I can wedge it and get both of these pickups. Sometimes, truth be told, these switches, even though they're easy to wedge, this one isn't. So this is like the Robert Cray. I like the clap noise. And getting back to the originality of a guitar like this, now, when you're collecting Strats, as opposed to Gibsons, at least the neck half the times is the same neck that came with the guitar, even though that's debatable too. Fenders are easy to unscrew.
Right.
So now with a Mary Kay Strat, or any gold parts Fender for that matter, is you could save yourself a lot of aggravation, time, and money. The first thing you look at is not these screws, not the back plate, not the tuning machine. First thing you look, if you ever want to make a guitar dealer nervous when he's trying to sell you one, you look at the truss rod screw. And the truss rod screws on these guitars were gold, just like the rest of the screws. So if you don't see a gold truss rod screw, you don't have a Mary Kay Strat. If you see gold parts in a nickel or chrome, that means somebody manufactured a Mary Kay Strat, and that's not what that is. So a lot of times the stuff just wears off. Like this is worn off. But,
how long have you had this one?
less than a year. I got a mint one at home that I bought from the original owner. This one's the Road Dog.
What do you use this for? Which song?
I use this one for a song called This Train. To me, I like it because it has that ocean, 461 Ocean Boulevard sound. So that's it.
Now, how many guitars do you have with you here in the building?
We have 12.
Well, and what made you choose to bring this one up?
If I bought it to play, I should probably play it.
I mean, to show us. What made you choose
I think it's an interesting guitar that not many people get to see every day.
Yeah.
A Mary
Cool.
Kay Strat.
Thanks for showing us.
And it's an interesting guitar. Let me see the tail. This is Terry Reid's guitar. And I know this is Terry Reid's guitar because I bought it from a guy named Terry Reid, who happened to be the real Terry Reid. And Terry bought this guitar in '68 when he was on tour with Cream. He was the opening act for Farewell Cream. Same summer that Jimmy Page asked him to sing in the New Yardbirds. And Terry bought it in Chicago, and then he took it on tour and he was using it. And then Manny's Music put this humbucker in it when they got to Madison Square Garden. And that's it.
What year is it again?
52.
Man, that finish on top especially, it's just like so...
This guitar was beat up in '71. There's a great video of him playing Glastonbury with it in '71 with a very young David Lindley. And the guitar was beat then. And I'm not sure how beat up it was in '68. Terry didn't have any photos of it, but if you look close, I don't know if you can zoom in on this. See that date right there? That's a police date. And the guitar was stolen at Heathrow Airport in the '70s. Huh. And it disappeared for a while, and it showed up at a young, budding pickup designer shop in London, and that guy's name happened to be Seymour Duncan.
Wow. And
Seymour knew Terry, and he knew the guitar, and he called Terry and said, "Hey, I think your guitar is here." And then Terry went down and got the guitar. And he got his guitar back. But then that's what the policeman wrote. It was 79.
That was the day it was found.
Yeah, I think it was the day.
Went into their custody.
Yeah, I think it went into their like locker. If it sounds wacky to you, because it's tuned up to F. For a song called Slow Train, and sometimes I capo it, but this tour I've been tuning just up to F, because with the capo, if you do a lot of bends with a capo, it's not great. So I mean, you play. I mean, that's not easy to play. that's a hard guitar to get around. Tough, right?
Yeah, and that brings up another question. Like the action is not super low on that. Are you pretty picky with that, or do you like how the telly sounds with it a little higher, or is that how all your guitars are? I mean, it's not like J Mascis high or anything.
I think a next code. That's probably why.
Blame Cedar Rapids.
No, these things are old and cranky, man. Let's look at heaven. Now this, you know, I like a little resistance. You know, I don't like light strings. I don't like everything too low. I mean, it's just it's gotta fight back.
11, so.
Yeah, this is 11 to 52. Now, I prefer the sound of a Les Paul or a V or a Gibson guitar with 10 gauge strings. I think they sound better. But when I get downstairs at 8 o'clock and I suit up and the adrenaline starts flowing, it's not a great. It's not. I overbend and I overplay. I mean, if you could believe it, I actually overplay worse than I do now. So that's like even worse. So who's at the hello?
Is that a knock at the door? Or?
It's me.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we're good. We got probably another 10 minutes. I'll be fine.
So before we move on to some questions from people on Facebook and stuff, you said Manny's put this on.
Yeah, he took it to Manny's. He said the pickup died.
Any idea what the pickup is?
Oh, I know exactly what the pickup is. It's a period correct 68 Gibson humbucker. So it's a patent number underneath there. And I have a Nocaster downstairs that has a PAF. It doesn't sound any different, you know. It's a humbucking pickup. What's a sticker have to do with the sound? Like so you realize when they went from patent applied for to patent numbers, the only difference was they received a patent. What's the difference? It's a effing sticker. It's a humbucking pickup. Generally these patent numbers, they sit between high 6s and maybe mid 7s, and they sound fine. You know, save yourself $2,500. Yeah, that sounds great.
Now, how about we jump to a couple of questions from a couple of guys who wrote on Facebook.
Okay.
One of them.
How much negativity? I'm gonna sit down with Joe Bonamassa for a half hour. How much vitriol came?
You know, you put anything on social media and it's 90% vitriol, right?
It really is. I mean, and it's done by people that either have nothing better to do, or post under assumed names. Isn't it strange?
I think I'd like to try to remind myself that it's usually negative people who choose to comment, and that the normal people that constitute most of society, they got better things to do.
You know, this is my problem. When they start comparing like people, you know, the founders of like Facebook, Google, Twitter, and Instagram, and they start telling people, you know, or saying, well, these are the modern day Henry Fords, these are the modern day Edisons. Not really, because they didn't make society better. You know, Edison made, hey, you enjoying all this light?
Right.
Edison did that.
Right.
Tesla did that.
Tesla.
Hey,
sure,
did you enjoy your ride to the Paramount Theater in Cedar Rapids? Henry Ford helped in that, you know, that equation. You know, making people like demonic and just like, you know, like with this they love that takedown mentality. Like, oh, I gotcha, or I said something so rude and so obnoxious that people chimed in, and then it only takes one half-assed shepherd, and then you have the rest of the sheep that go, I agree. I agree. And you're like really.
It's a way to feel significant, but you want
to sell them something like broken glass. You know, like people that gullible, you would think you could sell them something.
Well, there's a reader named Charlie Play, and I think he's had some good comments on other stuff before, but he was curious if with your amps, we've talked a lot about guitars, but with your amps, do you have a favorite brand of tube that you use, or do you prefer to mostly use new old stock since you're using a lot of pretty high-end stuff, or is it a mixture? Or
you know, with the amps, when I first got into the 80-watt twins, the high-power twins, the very first one I bought had new old stock 5881s, and it sounded great. and then those tubes wore out, and we put a set of JJs in there, and the amp sounded just good. And I said, okay, there's your answer, Jeff. Is I need stuff on the road that I can get at Guitar Center anywhere. There's a Guitar Center right here in Cedar Rapids. Hey, I need a quartet of JJs. New old stock tubes are great if the amp is like a studio amp or part of a collection or just something you use at home, because I can tell you this, within 10 minutes of the last note of this show tonight, my amps are in a case rolling on a truck. And it's like, in those new old stock tubes, they don't like to be jostled, especially when they're hot. Especially when they're hot for 2.5 hours.
And you have no idea how long they were used in their previous life, or
that's a rabbit hole that, because what you end up doing is spending a lot of your time, in the position one. Is it you like the 12Y7, the 12X7, and this, that, you like the tongue saw, you like the this, you like the G. Oh, my God. I honestly, I'd rather be an internet troll. I'd rather be an internet troll. I think it would actually be more rewarding. Being an internet troll that just trolls, anyway. So long story short, I use new tubes in all of my amps right now. Currently, I'm using 4 twins. 2 reasons. One, I think the sound is clear with 4 twins as opposed to 2 basements and 2 twins, and most importantly, I'm going deaf, so the 4 twins seem just as the same. But the sound is clear, and so I'm using 3 original 59 twins. One's been recovered in black, but it sounds great. 2 original ones, the one I bought from Steven Seagal, and then I'm using a prototype, which will soon be the Joe Bonamassa high power twin. So it's a Fender, and that amp that I'm using on stage, quite proudly, as a guitar, and an amp geek. That is the first Fender-made high-powered twin off the line since 1960. And
when does that come out?
That'll be out by the end of the year. We're almost there.
Nice.
And it's going to come stock with Celestion speakers that are 80 watts, because that's the trick with those. And it's all 12X7, so in the first position you have the option of either swapping out for 12Y7. That's how they originally came, so the amp will be a little cleaner. But I like kicking it in the ass a little bit, so you put the X7 and you're fine.
And you prefer JJs for the power tubes, or does it vary by the amp model? Or
I like JJs. Generally don't fail. I mean, you realize that, in our world, we're the last that uses this.
Yeah, it's hi-fi.
A 1/4-inch jack. Who else is using a 1/4-inch jack? We do. Okay, so this is steam-powered car number 1. We're also some of the last people to use power tubes. I mean, in
hi-fi stereos and us. Huh?
Hi-fi stereos and us, and then so the quality of tubes have gone way down. That's why you have a lot of tube failure these days, because it is really where they used to make millions of tubes, now they make thousands of tubes, and it's a big difference. And everybody wants shit for free. So they want it I want a military spec tongue sole made in America by Teamsters, okay, and I want it for $14 a unit. It's like, it's not going to happen. That's why, you think, we're the first people to go, hey, why don't we just start a tube factory like the old school? You start doing the numbers, there's just not enough market for it, and then you start running it, and you go, well, if I only make 10,000 tubes, the tubes are each going to be $120. And nobody's going to buy that.
Right.
Nobody's going to buy it. Especially when they go, well, my Chinese, groove tubes sound fine.
Yeah. And we've talked a lot about gear. Can I ask 2 questions that are off gear?
Sure.
Okay, so obviously you're one of the most famous living guitarists. You're very prolific. You're very involved with your fan base. Is there, you share all sorts of things about your gear like you're doing right here.
Yeah.
But is there something completely removed from guitardom? What inspires you? What's something recently that has just inspired you that's completely removed from from guitar stuff, but has inspired you as a person, as a creative person?
Well, you know, I'll tell you what inspires me day to day is when I see kids picking up, I don't know, it's same guitar related stuff, but you know, there was a kid last night in the audience in Peoria, Illinois, and it was his 9th birthday, and I met him in the meet and greet, and he had a sign, and I'm like, I'm meeting him, and I'm like, so how long have you been playing? I've been playing for a year, and he looks at me, he goes, all I do is listen to your music. I said, first of all, thank you, and let me help you. So I wrote a list of albums that he, like Freddie King, Are You Ready for Freddie? B.B. King Live at the Regal, Made in Japan, Deep Purple, Free at Last. You know, I wrote a bunch of albums for him to check out. And when I saw him, and I said, that reminds me of a young version of myself where he was just a sponge. He was just waiting. He's like this musician and waiting who is going to go out there and hopefully dedicate his life to music. Now, unfortunately, in 2017, it is monumentally harder to start a career than it was when I started. And being a odd-looking, long last name, blues rock playing fellow, my journey to this IKEA couch hasn't been an easy one. So, at the end of the day, I just look at him, but he has this unbridled enthusiasm for music and guitar. And I said, that's the future. And I said, you know, so anytime I can help kids like that with our foundation or with just, hey, you're 9, okay. Or some kids I go, hey, have you ever heard a guitar at 118 dBs? they're like, what? I said, do you want to play one? You know, and then hug them up through the twins and the monitors, and it's about 118 dBs depending on where you stand, and it's not healthy, but in small doses, you know. And they hit the, you know, I said, the first thing you do, I just go hit the biggest E chord you can, and you just see their face, like, you know. I'm like, well, that's part of the perks of the job, you know, and you know, being a solo artist, because when you're a solo artist, the sound man can't tell you to turn down, you know. Nowadays, I hear horror stories from my friends who tour with famous people, major acts, and they're saying, yeah, I had to downgrade to a champ because the sound man said I was too loud. I said, fucking Fender champ. I mean, yeah, that's not even loud enough for this room. I'm like, you going to do a gig with that? Anyway, that's another story. But that's what inspires me, is kids playing music and kids being passionate about something other than an iDevice, a social media, something tangible that requires dedication and a skill set, you know, that requires, you know, time and practice and passion and love and all those things. Those are the things that keep me going.
That's really cool that you take time to meet with kids like that.
That's the most important thing, you know, is because when I was a kid, I remember seeing Dan Toller play with Greg Allman when I was 6 in 1983. The first time I saw a Sunburst Les Paul, and it was actually turned out to be a refinished gold top. And by the way, kids, there is no Santa Claus. That's what I figured. That's what I thought it was a real 59, but it's actually a 58. It's been refinished, but it was fine. But it had made such an impression on me. I'm like, wow, there's a guy with a Les Paul and a Marshall, like, and just kicking ass. And you're just going, wow. You know, and I was 6, and I vividly remember that. So I'm very cognizant of the fact that, like, when kids come to my shows, they if they're inspired by it at all, they most likely will remember it for a long time. And if they're anything like me, that it'll give them that kind of, you know, just jump start, you know, and like that inspiration to go out and do it for themselves.